Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Call the meeting to order and welcome everyone tuning in to this public meeting of the Standing Committee on Accountability and Oversight. My name is Denny Rogers. I'm the MLA for Inuvik-Boot Lake and the chair of the Accountability and Oversight Committee. Today we're going to hear from the Northwest Territories Status of Women Council. And just a note for everyone, we are being live streamed on the Assembly's social media today. And so now what I'll do, I'll begin by starting and we'll go around the room and online to introduce ourselves for the record. I'll start with Mr. Hawkins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Robert Hawkins, MLA for Yellowknife Centre, and as always, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Jane Whelan Armstrong, MLA for Montpellier, Clutha Region.
Richard Ajirk, I'm MLA for Toondidiwilili.
George Nearsu, MLA for the Mackenzie Delta.
Shauna Morgan, MLA for Yellowknife North.
Good afternoon, I'm Kate Reed. I'm the MLA for Great Slave.
Welcome. I'm Cheryl Yakla. I'm member for the Dutcho.
Hi, Julian Morse, member for Yellowknife Frame Lake.
And online we have?
I'm Kieran Testard. I'm the member for Range Lake. Apologies for not being able to be there in person today. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder to all members and the witnesses to direct all the questions to myself as the chair, and of course to wait to be recognized before we ask the questions to keep the meeting running smooth. I'll now pass the floor over. I'll introduce first our members we have, or actually I'll pass it over to Ms. Airy, and I'll let Ms. Airy introduce herself and her staff.
Good afternoon, my name is Rita Airy. I'm the president of the Status of Women Council, representing the Beaufort Delta, and then my executive director, Sophie.
Thank you. And we have no one joining us online today.
We should have Anna Pontikis-McLeod. She's here? Okay, perfect. She's from the Detroit region.
Thank you again, and welcome, and please, the floor is yours.
Do I manage the mic or some? Okay. Sorry about that. Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry. So thank you for having us today and for your interest in our work. And we are very grateful for that opportunity, even if I'm pretty sure every one of you already know about us. But it's a good opportunity for us to open doors for more collaboration between the Legislative Assembly and us. So that presentation, I mean, we won't probably spend too much time on the presentation because we want to have more time to answer your questions if you have some. So okay, maybe I've up, down. Perfect. So quick, I would say few words about the context of the Status of Women Council. To remind a few facts, I think most of you know that the organization has over 4 decades of existence, and it started in 1982 when the GNWT appointed the first minister responsible for the status of women, and we still have one minister today responsible for the status of women. After that, we became the advisory council, and then the council was renamed the Women's Secretariat. We are the Status of Women Council per se, as we are today since 1990, when the act was approved. And today, while we are accountable to the GNWT under the Financial Administration Act, we are arm's length and self-directed organization governed by a board of directors made of 6 members, 1 for each region. So then we are sure that every woman, whatever region they come from, have a voice at the council. We are very well known for the work we've done in the past about advocacy. We used to promote a lot of socio-economic equality of women, empowering women to pursue leadership and political opportunities too, as well as addressing violence against women. And we've done that in the past, advising the ministers on some policies and initiatives, reviewing policy and legislation, conducting some research, but also providing assistance to other organizations who are more boot on the ground than we are. So a few examples of what we've done in the past. We organize a lot of events and campaigns, like we probably heard of the Wise Women Awards, the Family Violence Prevention Month, which happens every year in November, the celebration we do on December 6th. We also have some workshops and educational resources on workplace sexual harassment. We try to change the lens and language around violence. We also have specific program on trauma-informed approach. We are about to launch a program on economic abuse. And we did some research in partnership with the Aurora College. We worked on the taxi safety survey that we might have heard of. So this is the thing we used to work on, and we still do today. So after 40 years of existence, we still have facing challenges, and we still need to adapt to some changes. And we are in constant evolution because we need to adjust. So the few of the changes that happened the last few years, the major change was the creation in 2021 of the Gender Equity Division with GNWT. So the unit will be responsible for training staff to use gender-based analysis plus GBA plus, which is a way to assess how diverse groups of people experience government initiatives, programs, and policies. So they were not supposed they do it already. They coordinate cross-departmental action on gender issues, and they promote gender equity and leadership at senior level within the GNWT. And however, in practice, and according to their mission, that as you can read it on the GNWT website, the Gender Equity Division has also a key role for advancing women's equality issues by maintaining close contact with women groups and agencies in the NWT, but nationwide. So this, they are working in partnership with the Native Women Association, with us, and with the status of women at a federal level too. So it ensures that women equality issues are taken into consideration during government decision making, and that the GNWT responds quickly to concerns raised by women. So this is very helpful for us. And we did welcome the creation of the Gender Equity Division, but what we can say today is that based on what we can read on the website, the vision of the Gender Equity Division of the gender equity is very binary, so it's a lot about women, but we know today that gender equity is not just about men and women. There are other genders that need to have a voice too. And so that's the first thing. And also because today the Gender Equity Division is so involved with women organization at large, so we did notice some overlaps. So we try to make partnerships, but at some point there's no point in duplicating programs. So we just decided that, okay, the GNWT does it very well. We should not keep duplicating things and do something else. So we need to readapt some of our programs. For example, the leadership gathering for women, the campaign school for women, that usually happen prior to the election period when a candidate might need some trainings. And it was also the case with the Coalition Against Family Violence, because the Gender Equity Division now has a family violence coordinator which do coordinate all the departments and divisions of the GNWT, so it's very helpful. So we don't need to duplicate this with the coalition like we used to do. So it's just, I would say, an adjustment. There's no problem about that, but it just means that we need to adjust. And so despite those changes, we still remain very committed to our core mission, and we adapt to those changes. That binary approach of the gender equity division has highlighted the importance of a clear definition of our respective mandates to not overlap, and to clearly define I would say, the collaboration between them and us. And an attempt at that clarification was made with a review of the Status of Women Council Act last year. This review was based on a recommendation from a report made by Linda Todd Consulting. And the GNWT introduced Bill 75, Council for Women and Gender Diversity Act, which received a second reading in March 2023 and was referred to the Standing Committee on Social Development for further review. We did support a lot of the changes that were proposed, but we also were a bit concerned by the change in our name and our mission, because we were supposed to become the Council for Women and Gender Diversity. So we are all about gender diversity, and we are very inclusive in all the work we do, but that change of name would have had an impact on our vision and our mission. And above all, I think including gender diversity in our name and our mission would have overlap with existing organizations who are already working with, I would say, trans LGBTQIA plus community, which is, because it's about what we are talking here. So asking us, Council for Women, to be also the council for that community would be like probably compromise the focus on that community, and they already have an organization who has done amazing work the past few years. So we were just a bit confused about what we should be the voice for that community when the only thing they want is have their own voice. So we raised that concern, and everybody agreed to say that we need more time to talk about those changes and to agree on where we want to go. And mainly we all agreed to say that the Northern Mosaic Network need to be involved, and if they agree with that, we be agreed to, but they need to be involved in the review of the Act. Regarding the clarification in the Act, so we really asked to clarify the council purpose, as I said earlier, that the creation of the Gender Equity Division might bring some confusion about our mission and our mandate. So we do need some clarification. And the Act was talking about us as promoting women's rights, but we do much more than that. It all depends how we define what definition we give to the word promote. But it's not about just promotion. It's about advocacy. It's about education, training, research, public awareness. So to us, we just feel like promote was too restrictive, and we wanted really to clarify our mission a bit further. So we do understand that the review needs to happen, and we are ready to work with the Gender Equity Division and whoever is in charge of the review of this Act to make it move forward. And we do understand and we do agree with the fact that we need to modernize some of the terms contained in the Act. So for example, we raised concern about the status of women. Is it still a matter of status of women, or is it more about women's rights? So yeah, we are totally open to talk about those things. And we do want that those changes happen, staying true to our mandate. And we do believe that both women and gender diverse community can be represented without diminishing either group's voice. So the way forward for us is we did request our minister, Lucy Kuptana, to resume the review of the Act. And while that act is being reviewed, we did some work and we put our energy and our time in having a strategic planning for 24-28. And we did agree on a vision, which is to build a society free from harm, where all women and girls can thrive, and which is, I mean, no big change in our vision. We won't reinvent ourselves. We just want to reaffirm who we are. And our mandate is, of course, to advocate for change through initiatives that can raise awareness, advance equity, and, of course, empower women and girls. So we affirm also a few goals that we already existed in the past, but we just redefined them. Always raising awareness, so it can be through research, so through advocate. We really want to build strong relationships and network across communities, because when we go to the communities, people know who we are, they know the name, but it's not very clear for them what we are really doing. We are not frontline service providers who can create some confusion for the communities, so we do need to get out in the communities and share more about what we are doing and show them concretely how we can help them. One of our goals is also to empower women and girls to thrive, and we really want to make the NWT community safer for women and girls. And we do need also to achieve all those goals to strengthen our organizational and financial structure. So these are the goals for the next 4 to 5 years. And of course, to reach those goals, we also need to consolidate our financial resources. So we are very lucky to have a multi-year funding agreement with the GNWT. It's $444,000 per year, which covers all the salary, all the costs that, like the administrative costs, and so it does cover all our expenses. We just need to seek for external funding to support the development of our programs and our resources and research projects, which can be challenging because it just means that our priorities need to align with the priorities of the funding partners. And most of the time we apply for funding with the federal government, and their priorities at the federal level might not always match our priorities. So it's a bit challenging, and we are still trying to explain the specificities of the North, and that we really need to have to find a way to make it fit. It works. I mean, sometimes it works, but it's a constant, battle. So that's the main thing. We still need to put a lot of effort in developing our financial resources to be more to develop more programs and resources. Because of what I said earlier and the how the council is perceived in the communities, we do need to, and it goes with the modernization of the Act too, but we do need to be more clear about what we do, and we did think that we need to rebrand our council. Like, it's been around for so long that we need a refresher, like we're still here and strong, and we still want to help you thrive. So we work on the rebranding. We are about to launch our new website, and we did work on a new logo, which involved a change of the name. This is the name that was initially proposed in the review of the Act last year, except that it was Council for Women and Gender Diversity. We just kept the Council for Women for all the reasons I already explained. So this rebranding and the new website and the reviewing of the Act will be should come together to strengthen the Council's visibility and modernize our image. Of course, this can not be done if we are just by ourselves, kind of isolate in our I would say, mission, and because there are many other organizations that work for women's rights, but not only women, like for gender diversity per se. And we did notice that for some reason, we used to work kind of every organization on its own purpose, and we try to work because we need to apply for fundings to live, so we kind of not work really together because it's the best way to apply for fundings. Like, okay, this is my project, so I'm going to receive the funding, but we do understand now that we need to work a bit more together to probably put together sometime the funding, apply together to fundings. So come as a group, an entity of NGOs instead of just the status of women or just the Women's Society or the YWCA. So we are working on that. And we are also working on a project that WAGE supports, and it's building a stronger NGO sector, because we came to the conclusion that most of the time we are not involved as much as we would like in the policy making, in the process of the policy making with the GNWT. We are consultant. We are consulted at the very end of the process. So the policy is already made, and we have most of the time 2 weeks to give our review, which is very short. So we do have a voice, but we would like to be real partners and be involved in the process of making the policies instead of just reviewing the policy at the very end. And so we understand that to came to that point, we also, us as NGO organization, need to be stronger, probably more organized, and speak as one voice. So that's what we're working on. And we also want to improve our partnership with the GNWT. It's not really easy to talk about the GNWT, but I think you already hear that from other organizations, that we really need that shift from the top-down government approach to, as I said, more equal partnership work, and I think that's one of our main goals. And it's not just about the status of Women Council. I mean, all the organizations come to that conclusion. So we are really working on improving that relationship with the GNWT. And I would say, okay, so that's the conclusion, but I would say that that NGO sector is really concerned about not just being there to be a way for the GNWT to spend the money they have for funding from the federal government or everything. We really want to have a seat at the table and have a voice. So that's part of what we are here to, as the Council for Women, but also as an NGO in the social sector in the NWTs. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Loubet. I think as an AOC, we can relate to liking to have some input into policy rather than just review them, but certainly apropos today for sure for our conversations we've had earlier. But I'll now open the floor up to members to ask questions of Ms. Loubet or Ms. Airy based on her presentation. MLA Morris.
Thank you. Sorry, forgot about the mic control there. Thanks so much for the presentation. And just to kind of carry on from that last point that you made, I think, as Mr. Rogers just said, I mean, I feel the exact same way as an MLA. And so I think we can really relate to what you're saying. But to get maybe to the point, do you have an idea of what that could look like? Like, have you kind of thought through what would it look like for you to have kind of more of a seat at the table? And have you thought through and maybe kind of come up with some suggestions that we could bring to EIA or you could bring to the Premier for how exactly you'd like to see that work?
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Ms. Airy.
I have to press that. You want to? Sure. So I guess being one of the individuals that's been on the board for such a long, long time, I began in 1990. And at that time, we had a very good relationship with the MLAs from all the regions, and that included Nunavut at that time before we separated. And what would happen is if there was an issue regarding women, we would have an MLA come to us and ask us to help give all the information so that they could present on behalf of the women. And so that collaborated approach kind of got lost somewhere down the way, you know, after being there for so long. And I think that's where we need to start, is that we need to build on that relationship. And so if there's any issues regarding women, any concerns you have, like reach out to the RED and or to the president, and then let's get let's get moving forward with that, if that helps a bit for the understanding. You want to add to that?
Yeah. They, meaning the GNWT, and it's not, I mean, a critic, but if they don't want us to come in the house through the door, we'll come in through the windows. I mean, we have other ways to do it, and it's totally legit, and that's why we really want to work with the other NGO sector. It cannot be a fight for fundings. We are way over that, and I don't know. I don't think it's a matter of being taken seriously. I don't think that's the problem, because a lot of organizations in China have been around for many, many years and are well known for the amazing job they do. So I don't think it's a matter of taking the organization seriously. It's just, I think, a way of doing things for so long that it's kind of hard for them to see how it could be done differently. So yeah, we really want to show them that we can do differently. And to be completely transparent, having working in collaboration with the Legislative Assembly is for us a way to say, yeah, we're here because we know a few things, and we think it's good for us to sit around the table and put all those things together, just to have the best answer at the very end. And it's just one answer, and it's for the entire communities. I mean, it's not just for us, not just for that other organization. So I would say that the answer should be to stop putting organization in one box with a lid on it, and just open the boxes, and just, take the borders down and allow everyone to work together, and partners and collaboration.
Thank you, Mr. Lubé. Ms. Airy, a follow-up, Mr. MLA Morse?
Thank you. Maybe to help me better kind of understand, if you could give kind of some specific examples where you've been included and you appreciated that, or on the other hand, if need be, some examples where you felt left out of a process and you thought, you know, we could have used better input here. Like if you could give kind of some tangible examples, it'll help me understand sort of what's being looked for. So when I'm doing advocacy at, on the floor and things like that, that we can know that we're asking for the right things.
Sorry, I have to recognize you to get your mic. Come on, Ms. Airy. Sorry about that. Ms. Airy, thank you.
How I'd like to approach this is I can give the history, and Sophie can add to it. And I'll give you some examples of how active the council was when we developed the zero tolerance policy. That was collaboration with the Status of Women. The Wise Women Awards, that was collaboration with our minister and other MLAs who wanted to support us helping women. And family violence, that was collaboration with the Status of Women based on the information and research that we had. And collaborating with other community partners, the December 6th, that came with the support of the Status of Women and MLAs.
Thank you. Airy. Anything to add, Ms. Lubé?
I have example where we've been involved and it was a success. I do have examples where we haven't been involved. I would start with the review of the Act. I mean, that was, there are some consultation at some point, and I'm all into consultations, and it's very interesting. But the act was sent to the Legislative Assembly, and we were not aware of that. So we just discovered the last version of the act once it was before the Standing Committee. And it does put us in a very uncomfortable situation because we had to come in front of the Standing Committee on Social Development and say we don't agree with that. When it could have done before and avoid that situation for the minister, for the Gender Equity Division, who put a lot of work into that review, and they knew we disagree with that. So they knew from the very beginning that we disagree with some of the aspects of the review. But so we had to come here in front of the Standing Committee on Social Development and say, okay, we disagree with that, with that, with that. I mean, it's a waste of time for everyone. And yeah, I think we can do better. But I could also talk about the housing policy or the family violence policy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's good documents, but why don't you consult with organizations at the very end of the process, once it's done? I mean, organizations, let's say YWCA or Women's Society, they are involved on a day-to-day basis with dealing with their programs and everything. Reviewing an entire policy in 2 weeks, I mean, unless you don't really want their input, but I mean, it's impossible. It's just clearly impossible. But if you invite those key organizations in that sector to be part of the meetings on a regular basis, like way before the policy come out, then you can have those inputs and take them into account. And it doesn't mean that you have to be all that to be taken into account. Sometimes you can disagree, sometimes you can agree, but at least you explain, organization, okay, we hear you when you say that, but here are the limit of what you're saying, and we cannot go there. Just give us, treat us as real partners. Don't just send us the money and say, okay, you need to do this and this and this, but you don't have a word on how we are planning on dealing with that problem. So, yeah, sometimes we just can't do much more than that, like just trying to get with what we have, and we just have that very short window. And it's very frustrating when you have 2 weeks to review the housing policy or 2 weeks to review the family violence policy, because it's such a big concern, like family violence, it's such a big concern after 20 years of public fundings and 4 or 5 public policies. A lot of work have been put into it, and we are still facing some issues. So I'm pretty sure that we can all sit together and hear from those who are on the ground on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Ms. Loubet. Next I have MLA Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for coming here today. You spoke on one of your last slides about a project that you are initiating called the Framework for Impact, Building a Stronger NGO Sector. I was wondering if you could expand more on that and what the scope of that project will look like. It's very interesting to me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MLA Reid. Ms. Loubet?
Well, that's so. It all started when Wage came to Yellowknife to visit us in the north, because they don't understand why they don't have more funding application from us, the NWT. So they came here to try to figure out things. And I pointed out 2 reasons, in my opinion. First, their funding, the scope of their programs might not fit with our northern issues. So that was the first one. And the second one is that they have that project approach, which divide us. So, I mean, you're just facing the problem that the way you're doing things implement. I mean, you're the reason of the problem. I mean, we are not. Not just come and see us to ask, oh, what's going on? Why don't you apply for more funding? Well, why don't you review your fundings for them to fit our needs? So that was the beginning of the conversation, and it was kind of, well, very interesting. And we came to the conclusion that we we talked about the issues we have with, I mean, it's not really issues, it's working relationship we have with the GNWT and how we can improve this and how it's exhausting for the NGO sector to fight our battles, like being so isolated, the one from the others, and we'd rather work together because we are all working for the same thing. Like, even if it's homelessness, or if it's housing, or if it's family violence, or if addictions, everything. In a way, we are all working toward the same goal. So we just pointed that, and they say, I suggested that it's okay to spend money on specific programs, but if at the very beginning, organizations don't have that strength, then we keep doing the same thing, spending money on programs, and we can duplicate programs, and nobody will even notice it because it's not the same organization implementing those programs. So I'm just like, what about spending money for a limited period of time on strengthening and empowering the NGO sector itself? So then you have a better vision of how you're going to spend the money. And they had to talk about that back in Edmonton, but they did agree. So the point of that project is it's over 2 years, and it's really finding a way for the NGO sector working in the social sector to maybe put some resources together, but at least I would say putting resources together to, when we advocate or when we go at meeting with the GNWT, we are seen. As simple as that. I mean, we have that recognition that we represent the NGO sector, and we have a voice, and we are taken seriously. So that coalition, it's a coalition. The launch meeting is on Friday morning. We have a 2-year work plan to come to that point, and we do want to work on advocacy plan, and we do want. So it's not about requesting more money. It's just about us. How can we work together to just being seen as the NGO sector? It doesn't have to be one organization representing the others. It just means that at some point we will find a way to, well, yeah, when it's housing, we are all behind the YWCA or all behind the Women's Society, because we find the way to give credit as the NGO sector to those organizations to speak in for our point. So it just, we'll see how it looks like in 2 years, but we have a lot of hope. And the idea is really to work together and be all at the same level. I mean, depending on the time that each organization has and the involvement we can put and the work we can put into it. But the idea is not the Status of Women Council taking the leadership of anything. It's just that we have the money for now, because that's the thing, but we need one organization needs to apply. We are not yet to the point where we can apply as a coalition. That might be. And the ultimate goal would be for, I mean, it's a dream, but that could be the ultimate goal. But we would like the federal government to hear us when we want to apply for more, I would say, a more general approach than just a program approach. And it could be for them funding a mission instead of just a program or a specific. So that's the ultimate. And for that, we know that we need to be good. And we need to prove them that we are well organized and that we are synchronized and we all work on the same pace. So that the ultimate goal, I would say, would be that one, that to receive fundings based on our mission instead of applying for fundings and $5,000 for travels and $10,000 for professional fees because we are working with consultants and these kind of things.
Thank you, Ms. Louvet. Follow-up, Ms. Reid?
No, not at this time, but just to wish you every success. That sounds absolutely amazing and an extremely powerful goal should you reach it. I understand the bits and bobs that comes from dregs and drabs that you apply for this little pocket of funding. This little pocket of funding is exhausting and it takes a lot of resources for all these NGOs. So that's really a wonderful project and I hope you keep us updated. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MLA Reid. Next on our list for questions is MLA Whalen Armstrong.
Thank you, Ms. Airy and Ms. Dubé. Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to ask if your organization is working with other group, like the men's group and or the NWT Native Women's Association.
Thank you, Ms. Whalen Armstrong. Ms. Lubé.
We do. We meet on a monthly basis, except during summer, but we meet on a monthly basis with Senior Society, YWCA, Northern Mosaic Network, Yellowknife Women's Society, and the Native Women Association. So for now, it's 6 of us, and that's, I would say, the very beginning of how we decided to apply to that funding with WAGE, because we started to meet on a monthly basis, and because again, we just came to the conclusion that we are, and it's a day-to-day things, you know, we are all very busy and we are all involved in applying for fundings and spending the money we have, and sometimes we just forget to look at on the side to see, oh, but that organization is doing something amazing. What about partnering with them and sharing the cost to organizing that event, so then we can do we can add another event for at another time of the year. So that's how we partner with the YWCA last year for the December 6th event. And the Take Back the Night march that happened last Saturday, it was all the organization will get together to organize that event. So yeah, we do and the Native Women Association invited the council to do a presentation at their last AGM. So that's a very good way for us to explain what we do. And again, we are, it's always nice for us to work with those organizations because they are much more boots on the ground, I would always say, than us. And what keeps us very grounded is our board members who are in each regions, and that reminds us that we need to focus on a very specific topic. But from a Yellowknife point of view, we also work with all those organizations to have an overall vision of the needs.
Thank you, Ms. Lubé. Follow-up, Ms. Whalen Armstrong?
Yeah, thank you. I know that your organizations and other organizations are doing a lot of good work, and I do support and encourage. And I like some of the stuff. There's a lot of things that you guys are doing, which is really good. You know, research writing for recommendation and submission, you know, childcare, poverty. But I don't see any housing in there because you're working to make life better for the vulnerable people and especially gender diverse. And we know that there's a lot of struggles in our society, especially because the majority of the people in the NWT are Indigenous people. So I do really encourage and support organizations like the Status of Women and other organizations who are trying to make life better. Because right now we know that, and you know that, with Indigenous workforce, especially within GNWT, we don't have. I don't see or I don't know, but others, but I don't see too many young Indigenous women and girls in the workforce, and we see a lot of them on the streets, and that is major concern for me, because we have nothing for them. And I like the work that you guys are doing, and I would like to see more within that area where I know that some of them, there is an addiction issue, there is a social issues, but if we can do more in that area and for housing, because I do like this report over police and underprotected. I brought it with me, and I like the work that the organization is doing, and I really do support that too, because we do hear. I mean, we hear some of them are not getting reported. there's laws that are not reported. Even in my region, I hear things after the fact, you know, like, and it's like, it's really sad. And I do, I like what's you guys are doing within that, you know, your goals and what it, you know, what the organization is trying to accomplish. And that's, you know, it's like to make things, to make life better and to make things happen for the vulnerable people. So I really do support. It's more of a comment, but I just want to know why housing was left out too as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whalen Armstrong. Ms. Lube or Ms. Airy? Ms. Airy.
I'd just like to to go back to housing and then also looking at the bigger picture. And I hear what you're saying loud and clear, but I think this is way beyond what we can do. We need partnership. We need our MLAs working with us at the community level, because a lot of times you don't see the things that are happening in the communities. And it's very sad to see, and I know our MLA, Mr. Nirsu, has spoken about it many, many times. And once again, this goes back in the day, you know, where income support first turned, was taken out of social services. And it created something for the people where they felt they couldn't move forward, the young people especially. And you're looking at how income support has suppressed our people in our communities. It has suppressed them with working and not wanting to earn a wage because housing is too expensive. And you've heard this time and time again as MLAs when you go tour into our communities. And in the beginning of income support, the whole strategy plan, I was back there and I was the social worker, and we gave up income support, was that we're going to have productive choices. That was the dream. And we were going to get our people into training, into healing, and getting them out of income support and moving on, getting a career and moving forward. But it stopped there. And I think we need to revisit that and look at ways that we all can collaborate together and make it better for our people in the communities. But I certainly hear what you're saying. But I think at the end of the day, we got to look at the seed, like what was created, and work from there. And if you want to add, Sophie.
Thank you, Ms. Airy. Ms. Lube?
We do work on housing, but through a YWCA initiative, they created that IPV, which stands for Intimate Partner Violence in Housing, because housing is such a big issue that it's very hard to deal with it like as a whole. So we just choose that approach because we did notice that I would say, if someone in the partner relationship is, let's say, is violent and is taken out of the house for that reason, most of the time that person is the main source of income. So let's say it's a man, and the woman is left by herself in the house and has no source of income. So sometimes to face that situation and that reality, she just wants her husband to come back home to provide for her, even if he's violent with her. So that situation needs to find a way out too, because you cannot just stay in that situation just because for money reason. So but we're part of that working group on intimate partner violence and housing. The YWCA is working on this, and we are just like partners with them on that initiative as well as with other organizations. But we just look at it from that length, like the intimate partner violence length, I would say.
Thank you, Ms. Lube. Next on our list for questions, we have Ms. Yakalea.
Thank you, Rita and Mr. Bay for coming and doing your presentation. My question is, that was very good, by the way, very good by the work that the Status Woman does. Now, I wanted to know, you mentioned on here, it's called the Status Women. Now, at the bottom, at the end, it's called the Council for Women. So when did that change happen? The name change.
Thank you, MLA Yakalea. Ms. Lube?
It did not happen yet. So that's why it might be a bit confusing. I mean, we would like the change to happen with the review of the act, but the review didn't go through last year, so we are still we asked Lucy Kuptana, Minister Kuptana, to resume the review, and we suggested to go with Council for Women. The initial name with the review of the act was supposed to be Council for Women and Gender Diversity, and we just kept the first part of the name. So we did not create that new name. It comes from the review of the act. But if we go on the rebranding and a new website and like new logo and everything, it's a good opportunity for us to like reaffirm our mandate, and that would be Council for Women. So we just share that with you because it's in the process, but it's not official yet. So if you go on our website today, it will be the Status of Women Council.
Thank you, Ms. Lube. Follow-up, Ms. Yakalea?
Thank you for that answer. Now, how visible, like, because you mentioned programs in Yellowknife. You know, we have lots of programs in our small communities that are not aware of what the Status of Women Council does, because they don't hear about them and they don't know that this is a program in Yellowknife that can support them in the community, but they're not aware. So that's why I'm saying, how visible are you guys, and how visible is the Status of Women Council in the communities? You know, I mean, do you guys go visit the regions or do presentations in the regions, so people know that they can access this support and to support them in the region? Because we have a lot of, you talked about intimate partner violence, we have a lot of homelessness issue for women, you know, women struggling with issues with addictions, and they need that support. So, and you did mention that there is overlap. Yeah, there is. There's a lot of overlap. But the Status of Women Council is a lot of women. When you say the Status of Women Council, it's about women. You know, so having the visibility in the community, I think you'll get more, I say, traction. More women will say, yeah, you know, we have a place where we can phone and they can help us. So getting into the region is very important. Yeah, you have regional representation, but is that message getting out there? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yakalea. Ms. Airy. Thank you. I guess we're going to pass that question to Ms. Ponticus McLeod, who is joining us online. Go ahead, Ms. McLeod.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm actually the DECHO counselor for the Status for Women Council, and I just wanted to speak to some of the accessibility that you are asking about. I've been in my appointed role for 2 years, and I can speak to some of my counterparts in the regions that in our most recent appointees, we've taken a really active role. I know for myself in the DECHO region, it's a vast region, a lot of struggles, and what we did with the help of our headquarters was that we engaged in community engagement surveys. We did our own mini awards ceremonies. I have reached out to the different, through the Detroit First Nations, I worked to get some relationships built and started or repaired over the years. And the former counselor is a mentor to me here in the region. So developing the relationships, I think, is happening. I think that there's still some disconnect between the regions and Yellowknife, and we're working really closely and strategically to ensure that that continues. I know that when I go to anything from a farmer's market to the northern store, they're like, "Oh, Anna, Status Women, are we doing something this year? Are you going to be at the vigil?" I'm an advocate. I'm visible in community meetings with the LKFN. I've held strategic meetings where women and girls in the community could come to us and talk about what they want to see, what they don't know about the council. I think the work is happening. I just don't think that we're as loud as we could be. But at the same time, I'm very active. I carry a full-time job. I work for the GWT. I work with partners, work with victim services, part of the shelter, the new shelter that came to Fort Simpson here where I'm based. We tried to emulate or replicate in the region. So if I'm having an event, then our folks in the Beaufort Delta are going to do something. So we try to work so that the visibility is there. Facebook and social media are there for us, and part of our rebranding and our website and everything else. And it's been a real big rebuilding the last 2 years. So I want to assure you that the counselors are very active, and we are developing those relationships. And I know I can speak for myself in the DHO that it makes my heart full to meet the women and girls. And when people stop me and talk to me and they want to give their feedback or their ideas, it shows that engagement is working. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that and assure you that we are working with what we have, because it's volunteering our time, right? So we're volunteering our time, but we're very active. The newest thing that we just did was hygiene kits. And so I just finished delivering some to Sambake, Fort Liard, to the victim services, so that part of our strategy and programming is getting to the smaller communities, building relationships from everything from our, like say, Fort Simpson Air to deliver things for free and getting it out there, to working with the RCMP, working with victim services, working with band leaders. It all takes time. And I think that as long as we're visible at events, keeping clear, concise communication, and having that relationship with our MLA as well. So my MLA is Mr. Thompson, so we make sure that he's aware of the events that are going on. We do those things, and I think that's where we're going to build that capacity and that relationship. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ponticus McLeod. Appreciate that. Next on our list, we have Mr. MLA Jericon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for you doing your presentation here today. I think we met in the past as well. I think this year, and I think last year, in the last assembly as well. I just want to say that the work you guys do, I just want to say thank you, the work that you guys do, because it's much needed. But I want to just briefly talk about an overall issue that's impacting, all of us here in the north, especially in this GWT government right now. In the 20th Assembly, we got a budget of $644 million in health. And but for 150 years, First Nations and Inuit and Métis children were taken away from their parents in residential school, and a lot of them didn't come home. And the thing is that a lot of our issues that we're confronted here today are you could see our institutions are full of our own people, our people on the streets. So it's really hard for me to been here as the MLA and trying to look for solutions and look at ways how we could resolve a lot of these issues that's confronting us. And I even mentioned to the Premier and also Cabinet that one of the approaches that we should take a look at as a government is that we should be working with Indigenous governments and looking at the way how we can address this issue. the reason I say that is because the money we got in our budget doesn't go far enough, which impacts your guys' budget as well overall. And the issues that we can deal here, you guys are dealing with it today. So, I often thought about, putting my other hat on as a former chief, former band counselor, thinking what the people think in the community, going to the council meetings, etc. And I heard it all. And sometimes I keep thinking about, there needs to be a holistic approach now, collectively, where, if it took since 1831 to 2024, that's almost 200 years since the Indian residential school has taken place. It's to take the Indian out of the child, but look at the consequences today. But going forward, we have to figure a way so that, collectively, if we put our minds together and through all the NGOs across Canada, including AFN at the national level and different national organization, we got to figure a way where, we could get Canada to take responsibility. The Pope's come out to apologize. The Prime Minister's come out to apologize. The Newfoundland has come out to apologize about what happened, but all these other provinces and territories hasn't done that yet. But my issue here is that if we were to work together and figure a way where we could hold Canada to account after today, because if we were to put our minds together, Canada is going to have to take ownership and deal with the problems we're having now in our home community that impacts everybody. So if we were to get Canada to take responsibility, that will address the homelessness, housing, education, social, mental health, and so on. All those other issues that come along with the problems we're facing today. But I mentioned that to the Premier Cabinet. They nodded their head more to saying they're agreeing, but it didn't go anywhere. So I'm just saying that, has this issue ever come up in your discussions amongst yourself and board members and elders that you have worked with? Thank you.
Thank you, MLA Jared Khan. Ms. Airy?
That is a big project. And, you look at the TRC, back when they had the TRC meetings across Canada, they had a gathering in Inuvik and then, of course, in other regions. And people came out and spoke and shared their stories about the impact of residential school. And in my opinion, I believe that we do need to have another big gathering where people talk about, okay, past the TRC, what did we do for ourselves, right? Where are we now? And I think that would be a big stand from all people working together if we could host another big event like that. And then we can certainly get resolutions from that. And in my community of 600, we have the Aklavik Indian Band, and through funding and different projects, we now have a wellness center. We're probably one of the only communities that has a wellness center. In our wellness center, we have TP Talks for men. We have a shelter for women. We have a food bank. We have a teepee and a tent frame in the back of the wellness center. And a lot of that is going back to tradition. And we're going to help our people learn to fillet a fish, work with our animals, like our caribou, moose, whatever we're able to harvest. And having that wellness center, I believe a month ago, our stats was over 1,000 people walked through that wellness center. And we get a lot of calls from other communities wanting to get information on how they could start that healing process in each of the community. every community is unique and every community has an answer. And I think like if we build on that foundation, we share that information among ourselves as First Nations people, that would be a good starting point towards truth and reconciliation with residential schools. And I don't know if Sophie would like to add something.
Thank you, Ms. Harry. Ms. Lube?
Yes, from the council point of view, I mean, we cannot solve the problem by ourselves, but what we'd like to do is planting seeds. And what we're going to do this year, for example, it's very small step, but it's still a step forward. So we did receive some funding from the GNWT to ask a motivational speaker from Saskatchewan, an Indigenous guy, young guy from Saskatchewan, to come up here and share his story. So we do presentation and workshops. That guy has been through hell. Like, he's been in jail, he has been through addiction, he was a foster kid, and he didn't went well. And now he's a father, is back at university doing a master in Indigenous studies. And what we see behind that story is that we really want people to understand that they can get through this. There is a way out of that situation. And sometimes we do need to empower people. I mean, there's two aspects of things, like that's the thing and the program and the resources we can provide, 100%. But the other important thing is that restore, I would say, that trust. People need to believe in themselves. There's a lot of trauma, and in spite of those trauma, people are still very resilient, are very strong. They have a strong culture, and they have all those resources that they need to put together to go through all those traumas. And we do think that every individual has in itself the power to get out of it. It's just that sometimes you don't know where to start. You don't even know that you have that power, that strength in you. So what we're going to do this year is just work with that. His name is Mike Scott. So we're going to work with him and sending him to the communities for him to spread the word that he's been through what most of the Indigenous people are going through. He knows what he's talking about, and he find a way out. So if he did it, everyone can do it. That's really the message we want to spread, because we don't want people to feel like they don't have the same chances. They might not start all with the same background at some point, but there is a way out for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Lube. Mr. Jerrican, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your response. And I know this issue is a very big issue. You know, trauma is still alive and well in our communities. I feel it whenever I get the phone call from my constituents, and it's overwhelming sometimes. But I continue to work with my colleagues, and I wouldn't mind probably introducing a motion in the House to put like you said, the seed out there. Because it needs to be brought out, it needs to be talked about, because Canada needs to live up to their obligations as well. And it's really hard for me because I hear what you guys are saying, and when I go back to my community, it's alive and well. But anyway, I will introduce and probably a motion I'll probably be working on to bring this out. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind put the seed out there to all leaders in the Northwest Territories and all Indigenous governments across Canada that this issue needs to be brought out at the national level too, because Canada needs to take responsibility. And at the end of the day, if they are able to come up with a plan by working with the Indigenous governments at the national level throughout Canada, then we could probably look at a way where we can get funding brought to our level, and we can start dealing with those issues. Because we can't do it alone here. We also need the help of the leadership in organizations such as yours. So anyways, it's not a question, but it's just a general comment. But I encourage you to continue to spread the seed and and I'll do the same. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Jared Khan. Next on our list for questions, we have MLA Nirsu.
I'd just like to thank you for your presentation. Some good work you're doing. As you know, that Canada's experiencing a drug crisis, especially within every community in the NWT. Going back home, you know, just when I was coming back, there was a young woman. She overdosed and she had to be revived. So it's just something that we're dealing with on probably a daily basis. And these drug dealers are they're targeting young women and young mothers, taking over their homes. And these young ladies are losing everything, you know, their lifestyle, their jobs, their homes, their families, their kids are taken away, and the list goes on. You know. As an MLA, I became more aware of this, more than just before I was an MLA. I see it, but as an MLA, I hear it on a daily basis. People calling me, people messaging me saying, "What are you doing?" I think every MLA that's in this room brought it up one time or another at a session, trying to find solutions to this crisis. I've brought it up numerous times. I've sat with the RCMP in McPherson trying to find solutions, work together. But it's only so much they can do, and they're tired. I can see these resource people are tired within our communities. Okay. Have you found that your organization is dealing more with these crises, these people that are experiencing these young women that are getting hooked on these drugs? And how can your organization and we as regular MLAs work together to try and eliminate some of these problems? Because it just doesn't come down to the government. It has to be a collaborative approach between more organizations working together. Because I would like to find, like, you're not going to eliminate everything, but you know, some of the more prevalent ones, like having the Justice Department step up and actually, I know there's people. I always use my community because I see it. They catch these drug dealers, and next day they're told, you know, they have to leave the leave the jurisdiction, and they're promised to appear, but they never do come back. They just send somebody else. So it's a cycle that goes on. So just, you know, just wondering if your organization has any ideas of how you can work with us to try to get the government to address these problems that, you know, someday it's going to affect their family. Then maybe they're going to say, I should have. But, you know, it's got to be done now because it's affecting every family within the NWT. How can you work with SMLAs to find some sort of solution, framework, or something that we can work on together? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nirsu, for that question. Ms. Airy.
As you are all aware, I'm sure you heard last summer, Aklavik, my community of 600 people, had a bold reaction to drug dealers in our community. The whole community came out, and they took it upon themselves to chase the drug dealers out of Aklavik. And at the time, justice came down and didn't reprimand anyone, but they told the community that we shouldn't have done that. But if our heart is in the right place and we want to protect our children, number one, our families, then as a community, we have that right to stand for our community. We had another incident about a week ago in our community, and there was drastic measures taken where Justice had sent in a SWAT team. And I was watching, the whole community was watching, and it was like watching a movie. And a van pulls up, 9 members come out all dressed in their attire, and you see heavy-powered ammunition, you see laser guns to the window of an individual. So if they're able to do that to something that was not even as serious, why can't they do that with drug dealers? Send in the SWAT teams and put an end to all this crisis and horror that they're creating in the communities. You know, you look in the region, you look at the large center, they have houses, they have crack houses, they have young girls, and like Mr. Nirsu is saying, we need a collaborative approach on how to address this. On social media, I heard a grandmother speaking on the conditions that were happening in her community, and her cry was, what can be done? Like all over the Northwest Territories, you're hearing women stepping forth, grandmothers, elders stepping forward saying, what can we do to protect our grandchildren? And we need to come to a solution, and we need to have an answer before it's too late, because we have beautiful young children growing up in our communities. They are all skilled with their culture. They know how to hunt. They know how to go out harvesting berries. They know how to do they have all these skills, but once the drugs set in, they're going to lose all that. We've seen many of our own people losing what they know. And yet when you get them out on the land, they are the smartest people. And I think we have to look at what we have and how we can work together to stop what is happening in the communities. And you look at down south on reserves, they just put signs up and they say drug dealers not allowed, drug dealers not welcome. And their council and their communities march them out of their communities. So what's holding us back? You know, and we need to have that discussion with justice, is what I believe. And yes, certainly the council, we can look at solutions on how we could address our young women, how we could get something going, like to support the young women who are involved. But I think we're at a standstill until we have that discussion with justice at the community level and with our leaders and our MLAs.
Thank you, Ms. Airy. Ms. Loubet, yes?
From another perspective, what we would like to see too, and maybe I'm wrong, but that could be work we could do together, is that I was talking earlier about the public policies in family violence. We are now at about 20 years of public policies in family violence, and the fact is that we are still facing the same problem. And a lot of work has been done and a lot of efforts have been put into it, but we are still facing the same problem. So what we would like to see is a public policy evaluation. It's what we heard report is one thing. Most of the time, those reports are just, not just, but most of the time, what we heard report is a picture at a specific time of what is happening. But how can we analyze those 20 years of family violence public policies and coming to the point where we are now? We need to know what worked, what did not work, not from a public point of view, from a GNWT point of view. They need to, I mean, we're all very well aware of what public evaluation is, and we need, I think, more concrete evaluation of the policies we have, because we need to put concrete actions, because things work. I mean, there are a few things that work very well, but some do not produce the results we are expected. So we need to understand why, and we need to improve things. Public policy evaluation is not criticizing anything. It just find a way to make it better, make it work even more efficiently. So, yeah, I think our main concern would be to have those public policies going with a true evaluation. I know it's a lot of time, I know it's a lot of money, but at some point we need concrete public policy evaluation.
Thank you, Ms. Loubet. Do you have a follow-up, Mr. Nirsu?
Thank you for the response. I'll just go in another direction here. During our last committee meetings, we were talking about homelessness, specifically with the encampment within Yellowknife. And every time I give a member statement in session, I always refer back to community-based programs, because that's where the community knows their people the best. And I talked about people from the smaller communities leaving their communities because they don't have a shelter there. I know Klavik has some sort of a transition home, but the other community, I mean, my community doesn't have anything like that, so we have a lot of people couch surfing. And it's unfortunate because there's just no homes, and they're leaving to Nuvik because there's a warming shelter there. And at most times it's full, so they're stuck around Nuvik, and it's sad to see, but I also see them here in Yellowknife, and I always say Yellowknife is no place to be homeless. We were getting a briefing, and I asked the Premier that, you know, the chief in my community knows who these people are. They want them home. If they're willing to build some sort of a shelter within the smaller communities, so the residents of these small communities don't leave and end up on the streets in Nuvik or Yellowknife. And we've had a lot of our young people that are coming back to McPherson specifically, because I know they're coming back in a box because of, you know, they're homeless, and what else they're going to do? They're going to join the crowd and get into alcohol and drugs, and they can't. But we're trying to, I always advocate, like I stated, I always advocate for community-based programs, because we know who our people are. And how would you, you know, again, work with us in trying to solve these, keeping our young people home rather than going to the regional centers or the capital. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nirsu. Ms. Harry.
Going back to my community, Aklavik is, again, a small population, but we have a very active community. And I believe it was 6 years ago we got the Pathways housing that Mr. Nirsu was speaking about. It was a pilot project, and there was 4 apartments in the unit. They're fully furnished. All the individual does is walk in there with their clothing or what they have, and they have a satellite, they have a telephone, they have beds, bedding, everything livable. And I think if other communities, you know, would look and advocate for the communities to get a Pathways program, like start there, and we can certainly assist in advising on how we made our program successful. So if you go into, as a homeless person, you go into a Pathways unit, you're not just going in there to do nothing. You're going to be looking at whether you need to go for alcohol treatment, you need to go to adult upgrading, you need to get your health issues resolved, you need counseling, and then the coordinator provides you with how to manage your funding, how to pay your bills, like you're going right back with life skills. And then the graduation is when you've completed all of the requests and your goals. You make goals on how you want to begin and end. And your graduation is getting into a housing unit. So it is a process, and it's been successful. We had a young person came into Pathways and ended up following all the program plans, went into college and is now employed. And so we have successes as well. And at the end, like Mr. Nirsu, you're stating that, you know, for every community, you have the answers for your community, and that's where you need to start. And as far as the council, Sophie, if you would.
Thank you, Ms. Harry. Ms. Lua.
I don't have anything else to add really, but except that it does need to be done in collaboration with everyone involved. It's not just a GNWT issue on NGO issues. We do need to have the communities involved, and I strongly support the community-based programs. Each community has its own specificities, and depending on the way they are organized and everything, but we do rely on the band or the chief to. We need to build that partnership with the community band or the chief to better understand the need and better answer the need. I would say the best way for us to do that is to partner with each community. We appointed back in February a community engagement and development coordinator at the council, which is a new position, to try and build those relationships with the community, to really adapt our answers. So I don't have one answer for now, but what we are doing is really rebuilding that relationship with the communities and advocate for their needs.
Thank you, Ms. Lube. I understand we have you until 3:30. We're approaching that. I still have Ms. Morgan left that has a question, so I'll turn the mic to her now, and we'll be mindful of the clock because we're approaching 3:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks very much for sharing all your insights and about the organization today. One question I had, this was in your presentation, that part of your mandate or what you're doing is trying to change the lens and language around violence. And I wondered if you could explain what you're doing to change lens and language around violence. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Ms. Lube?
So that specific program was addressed to journalists and the way they relate on violence cases in the newspaper. So that was a specific program. And it gives me the opportunity to talk about the limit of the funding we received, because we receive funding for specific programs, but once the funding is done, then we don't have the money to keep using the resources and I mean upgrading those resources. So that was one specific program, and it was made for journalists only.
Thank you, Ms. Lube. Follow-up, Ms. Morgan?
Thanks very much. And I was happy that some of my colleagues, such as Emily Whalen Armstrong, raised the report that was done by the Yellowknife Women's Society, Over-Policed and Underprotected. And I know that you've been meeting monthly with different organizations, including the Women's Society. And so there was a number of recommendations that came out of that report. One of them asking or calling for like an independent review of the RCMP and its treatment of Indigenous women in particular. Is that a recommendation that the Status of Women Council is prepared to endorse or sort of add to the call? Is that the kind of thing that you might do in the future or now? Do you have a stance currently on that? Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Ms. Lube?
We do, that's definitely something we can work on. And we do have a request, an official request from the Women's Society to support them on that part, and it's coming. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the questions. Certainly, thank you for your presentation. We've reached 3:30. We appreciate the passion in which you give your presentation, the advocacy. We need 10 more organizations such as yours, because that's really is the backbone of what keeps our territory going. And we certainly appreciate you taking the time today to come out and present to us. So thank you, Ms. Airy, Ms. Loubet, and Ms. Ponticus McLeod for your time today. And this concludes our public hearing. Thank you.